Spencer Oliver has rejigged his very, very busy personal diary and is in here because, Spence, as you know, we're waiting for the EFL fixtures to come out. They will come out, and we'll bring the top ones to the listeners, to the viewers, before we go at 1 o'clock. So we thought, right, Spence, instead of 12 noon, we'll go at 11:45. Although I understand, I'm reliably informed that you thought it was the NFL fixtures that were coming out.
I did, Jim, and you know, juggling that 15 minutes around has been difficult in my day, to be fair. You know, 12 o'clock, I'm regimental in our movement, so getting here was difficult. We
believe we had to tease you out of Sainsbury's round the corner a bit earlier than we normally would. Spencer, it's good to have you on board. So much to get through. I don't really know where to start. All good relationships find their natural end point, do they not? And I know you've been in conversation with Simon in Top Boxing on this. But why is it at this time that promoter Alex Krasiuk has split with top fighter Oleksandr Usyk?
This was an unusual one for me, actually. It was a surprise for me, this split, because Alex Krasiuk and Oleksandr Usyk have been together from the beginning, since the Olympics. When he turned professional, you know, he's become two undisputed champion in two different weight categories. They've had a great relationship, and when you see them on the surface of it all seems fine. So look, we don't know the ins and outs of it, why they've split. Will that have an effect on the fight come July the 19th? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's not going to hamper the preparations of Oleksandr Usyk in any way, shape or form, but it is very strange that they've split.
What do you read into it, Simon?
I go with Spencer. I mean, when Alexander was in here, he was in with Aegis Klimas, wasn't he? He wasn't in with Krasiuk.
Yeah.
And we were going to do something with Krasiuk, and he couldn't do it then at that time. And that all seemed a bit strange because it was arranged to have Alex do something, wasn't it? It feels to me like it's a strange time to do something. You can understand if there's a lull between fights and ultimately the fight gets won, the fight gets lost, and there's a change of relationships. But leading up to the fights, it seems like a strange thing to have done. You know, I suppose you're always leading up to a fight, but we're right on the cusp of a fight now, 2 or 3 weeks away from a major fight.
Yeah.
And it would have been the logical time from a point of view of not understanding the mechanics of why they've done it, to go, well, surely this fight gets finished, and then bang, at the end of this fight, outcome is whatever it is. Thank you. We're going our different ways. Now, of course, Oleksandr Usyk may simply be the beneficiary of some additional revenue from this because he doesn't have to pay his manager the commission fees that he'll be getting from it. Do I think it affects the outcome? No. But any distraction in a boxer's life can't be helpful. We heard the other day from Ben Davidson talking about the fact that Anthony Joshua was knocked out of his rhythm, potentially, without attributing the blame to the loss of Daniel Dubois by the fact he was very late to the arena. Losing somebody from an entourage, and boxers have entourage that keep their minds focused, keep them relaxed, keep them in the same space. Having somebody come out might be a distraction, and it might not be. But we're talking about somebody like Usyk, who, to me, is zeroed in on what he does. And I think
no matter what,
if it were anyone else, I think there might be a distraction. But with Usyk, I don't think so.
It was interesting, though, Spencer. We went to Team Usyk, and they gave us an exclusive statement. Sergei Lapin, the head of Team Usyk, and in that statement, there's a standout few words. Usyk reached a point where it was time to build something of his own.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, I think he's at the stage of his career where they're saying that they feel now that they can do things on their own. He's got that power, you know. He's built, you know, he's built his what's the word that I'm looking for? He's built that team, and he feels that now the promoter is not needed at this stage of his career. Look, we're talking about Oleksandr Usyk here, and it'd be fair to say this could be his last fight. He may have one other fight after that.
Do you get the whiff of economics about this, Spence? Because if indeed you're at a stage now where you are a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You don't really need a promoter. You know, the promoter isn't putting this event together to some extent. Of course, the logistics of it are, and of course, they're valuable in the equation. But when you're Oleksandr Usyk and you look around and you know your own mind, and you've seen the fellow in the studio, this man is not a fool. He's perfectly capable of operating at this stage in his life. So if he's sitting there going, I'm paying 15% of a 50, 60, 70, 80 million pound purse for things I could do myself, it feels to me that there might be some of that in the mix.
I totally agree. Listen, look, when you look for it and you go through the layers of it all, and you try and understand it all, and they've been together and they've got a great friendship as well. It can only come down to that, the business side of things. And what Oleksandr Usyk now looking at it saying, look, I've only got a couple of fights left, and maybe Alex Krasiuk has run its course, and we don't need to do that now. You know, I can do these things on my own, and because of that, you know, the financial reward and loss in all of this. He goes, well, we may as well do it without Krasiuk. I mean, but we're talking about a word called loyalty as well, and that comes into play as well when you look at it and you say, well, is there more than that? Because
they've
always
together
seemed
from
to
the start, 12 years.
And a great friendship, Jim. I must say that. You know, these guys are a tight-knit team. So that's why it's more of a surprise to me than anyone else. If I'd heard it about anyone else in any camp, I would sort of understand it more. It'd be down to the business
Lewis
side.
Simon up in Falkirk in Scotland. Maybe Usyk's manager didn't want him to take the fight. Maybe they've had a fallout about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. A promoter with a conscience. I will stick you. I wouldn't want you to go into a fight that you're perfectly capable of going into. You're comfortable yourself, and I wouldn't want to get paid for that. So I'm more worried about. There may be that, but you know, he knows his sport better than everybody. The fact of the matter is, people stuck Muhammad Ali into rings in the 80s when he should have never been there. We're seeing fighters get put into fights all the time. The row about what promoters do and don't do. He may be the one. He may be the one promoter of all the promoters that, above all, is more concerned about the well-being of the fighters than himself.
There's no cause to be concerned about the well-being of a fighter like Oleksandr Usyk because he's shown no signs of deterioration. He's beat Daniel Dubois already, and he's going over old ground, so that wouldn't fit at all.
Back with boxing, and Spencer Oliver has been sitting very quietly and listening to all the EFL news. You happy you now know who plays who in the opening day?
Oh, very happy.
Yeah. Spencer, thank you for that for that short but quite direct answer.
That's about as much as I could give you if I'm totally honest, Jim.
Here's one for you as we head towards the break, Spence. After a year away from the ring, Deontay Wilder back tomorrow night to face Tyrrell Herndon in Kansas. I've been to Kansas. What's your take on that? Is this an easy one for Wilder's return?
It should be an easy one for Wilder's return. Tyrrell Herndon lost in 2023 to Richard Torres Jr., who was a 6-0 prospect coming through, and he was taken apart in a couple of rounds. So really, Deontay Wilder should be doing a job. If he's got anything left, has he got anything left? We haven't seen any evidence of that recently. I mean, you look at the fight against Yele Zhang, and he looked a shell of his former self. Against Joseph Parker, he did as well. So I'm not sure how he's going to rewind the clock, but if he does, and he wins, he puts himself back in the mix.
Do you think Wilder can find relevance again, Simon?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, again, Spencer can comment on it more, but once the fight appears to have left you, I should imagine it's very difficult to get it back in again. And what we saw was a person that was amputated from his spirit in terms of the fighter that we saw once before. The Fury fights had obviously taken their toll. And what we saw in a Joseph Parker fight, which Joseph rebuilt his reputation on, was there wasn't the Deontay Wilder that we once knew. And it was even worse against Yele Zhang, wasn't it?
It certainly was. Yeah, it certainly was.
So it appears even I would have a chance against Tyrrell Herndon, whether it's in Kansas or not, although I'm not so sure about that. Good luck to Deontay tomorrow. When is it? A year away? Yeah, tomorrow night. Wilder back in the ring, and we'll see how he does. A lot to get through between now and 1 o'clock with Spencer Oliver, who joins us live on the show this lunchtime. Now that the EFL fixtures are released, and we know all about them. Thanks to Sam Matterface for joining us. We're live in talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes. Joining us live at the moment is Spencer Oliver, because we are talking boxing. And Spence, we're 1 week out from the all-British bout between Harlem Eubank and Jack Catterall. That one takes place at Manchester's AO Arena next weekend. I'm delighted to say Harlem Eubank's promoter, Kalle Sauerland, joins us live on the show. Kalle, good afternoon to you.
Gentlemen, how are you? How are you, Jim? How are you?
Very good, thank you. We see if we're watching live on YouTube or your smart TV, you can see Kalle sitting in his very smart car talking to us live this lunchtime. So how's your man? How's Harlem?
He's doing well. He's waiting for this moment. You know, he's been patient. He's done it the traditional way. Spencer will know all about that. Little increases in fight levels. He's had fantastic viewing numbers on Channel 5 in the process. So he's had a great build-up in terms of publicity. But now's the time. You know, this is the moment where we'll find out, is he ready for the world level? Jack Catterall, you know, real gentleman, credit to the sport, fantastic operator. Absolute world class, and you know, this is what it is. Next weekend, Manchester, live on DAZN. Very, very, very excited for it.
Yeah, Kalle, it is all about timing, isn't it? And like Harlem Eubank has been a professional now since 2017, and it would have been easy with the Eubank name to let him go and build him faster, but you've taken that slow, steady approach, haven't you? Tyrone McKenna last time out was a great win. He won that inside 10 rounds, and you now feel that this is the time because Catterall is a serious operator. Only just lost to Arnold Barboza last time out. That was, debatable whether he did lose even. So he's at that level still, and this is a massive jump up for Harlem Eubank.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer, look, you've known me a couple of decades, yeah. So you know my philosophy on the sport, and it's when you take a young fighter, you need to go through those levels. You go through. Of course, you've got to be ready for, especially at the moment, some of the wild purses being thrown around. It's making a living, no doubt about it. But if you go in the traditional way, it's about that moment. And Spencer, you would have had it. That moment where you have to test it. You have to test what your belief is, and I think the big advantage, people could say, what's the advantage that Harlem Eubank has? Yes, it's the speed. Yes, it's the less miles on the clock. But yes, it's also that nobody knows how he's going to adapt at the big stage. He's got the big name, no doubt about it. He's had fantastic viewership on Channel 5. That all goes out the window when the bell rings. So it's really, I mean, for people who's followed his journey, fascinating. It's obviously another page or chapter in the Eubank legacy in the sport, especially in the UK. But it is, forget all that. This is the moment, all those blood, sweat and tears in the gym. Next Saturday night in Manchester, it will be the moment we find out what it's all about.
Funnily enough, Harlem Eubank joined us on the show last week, and he spoke about the opportunities that may open up for him if he can overcome Jack Catterall.
Yeah, I think it just takes these big fights, these big occasions, and the type of performances that I've been putting in. And people are starting to distinguish them performances, and it takes time. It's a big it's big footsteps to follow. It was for Chris Eubank Jr.
Yeah,
with everything that Senior achieved in the sport, and now I've got both of them at the very pinnacle of the sport, and it's great to have them there. That the name is being held very, very high right now in boxing, and I'm ready to go in there at world level against a top operating Catterall and prove that I'm ready to fight at the top of the sport.
Spencer, what do you think, having the Eubank name, has that helped or hindered him?
Well, listen, having the Eubank name can help or hinder him, but I think they've done it the right way. They've taken the slow approach and let him learn his trade, and he's improved as a fighter. When you see him now, he's 21 fights in, 9 of those inside the distance, turned pro in 2017, and it's been a slower progress for him. And now Chris Eubank Jr., Senior, obviously a big part of that stable as well now, and the guidance, and they feel that the timing's right. And I think that it's a question for Kalle, really. Kalle, what have you seen in Harlem to say, right, now is the time? Because he has been a work in progress, and you look at it now, and you guys will know better than anyone. You're great at, directing careers and taking the right step at the right time. Why now? What have you seen that is different to what he's been doing before?
It's I guess it's the $1 billion question always. Yeah, I counted recently 47 world champions, and I think 80% of those I've taken from their first pro contract over the last 3 decades. It's a gut feeling. I don't know, the gods decide you get that moment, look. Yeah, it's a good payday. It's not life. It's not gonna. This is not retirement money. So this is, yes, it's a money fight. It's a big fight, big arena, big platform on DAZN. But at the same time, it's about testing it. And you come to that stage, and again, I think the answer is he's stepped up little levels, and now it's time. We felt it was the right fight. We were ready to roll with Azim as well last year. And we shall find out. It's not, I can make the big promoter talk here. I can say, look, this is the next Eubank, blah, blah, blah. But really, it's about next weekend, and it's about his performance. After that, boot tennis, it's a great division. It puts him right up there. You've got obviously Conor Benn, more or less his natural weight after the couple of Eubank fights. But one thing just on the Eubank name, this is Mr. Humble, yeah? This is he's got a lot of similarities with the other Eubanks, but he is And I've worked, as we all know, very closely with the Eubank family since a long time. I had some great times with Junior, great times, and wish him all the best. But at the same time, this is, to work with Harlem, he's so humble and he listens, and he really, to learn, to listen is to learn, and especially in our sport. Spencer, you became a champion. Why'd you become a champion? Because you listened. And that's, with Harlem, it's a joy to work with him, because he really listened. He said, "Well, that fight, that's the right time."
Well, talking of listening, Kalle, Simon's been listening very closely to you. Simon, do you like what you've seen so far in Harlem Eubank?
I haven't seen enough to be able to give an honest opinion. My interest in this fight is the curiosity about Jack Catterall and his motivations. Jack Catterall should be an undisputed champion. Obviously, that's a well-rehearsed path. His most recent fight against Barbosa was a loss, having beat Jorge Linares, having beat Regis Prograis. And I'm interested in my feel for Jack Catterall going up a weight class on the back of a defeat to Arnold Barbosa. Is it the right time for Harlem to be fighting the name of Jack Catterall alongside the fighter in himself?
Yeah.
And the impression I got from Sam was that the reasons why they took this fight is because it's the Eubank name and it's some economics attached to it. Which is why I was interested to hear Kalle saying this is not a game-changing amount of money in this fight, because you would have felt that Jack Catterall would be looking at this fight in a certain way.
But I feel that the risk versus reward for Jack Catterall is not really there, because he's the one that's stepping up in weight against the Harlem Eubank, who's sort of gone under the radar a little bit to, let's say, his cousin Chris Eubank Jr., but now is the timing for him. So when you weigh it all up, I think from Kalle's side, I think it's a genius move, because Harlem Eubank comes up against a recognised name in Catterall, who's moving up in weight divisions, coming off a defeat. It's a sort of win-win for Harlem in many ways, isn't it?
But if Jack loses, what it does for his career.
Yeah,
Jack then comes up, loses against a Eubank name, but not anyone reputed at this moment in time at any particular level coming through. So he loses against Barbosa. He's now got 2 losses in a row against a champion in Barbosa that's now gone on loss to Teofimo Lopez. Goes in against a Eubank name that's the Eubank name right now. Yeah. And Jack Catterall's in the wilderness.
That's what I was saying.
Briefly, Kalle, before you leave us this lunchtime, you mentioned him earlier, Eubank Jr., Chris Eubank Jr., you've worked with him for such a long period of time in your career, and in his career. If he was to go in against Ben again, would you want to see it?
I'm not going to get away with an interview with you guys without a question on this, am I? So, I mean, it was a terrific fight. I think the weight, and this has got health and safety. The camps need to look at that, but would only interest me if the weight's the same from a Ben perspective, because if it changes, it becomes very lopsided. But again, I'm totally not putting into the equation health and safety, because I haven't got a clue where they stand. I would say if the fight was made in 6 months apart, how can the weight suddenly be a massive different factor? That I can't answer. But I guess that will be the point that both camps are going to be going in on, is the weight. In terms of money, this fight will happen, because that's the money spinner from both. There's talk of a Canelo fight for Eubank, but this is certainly a much. I'm not saying it's an easy fight by any means. It was a great fight, the first one, but it's certainly a lot easier than a Canelo fight.
Okay.
So, look, I think it gets done. For me, it's a question of will we see an evenly matched fight weight wise, like we did on the first one.
Okay, Kalle, as always, thanks for joining us, mate. Kalle Sauerland of Wasserman Boxing, of course, joining us this lunchtime, primarily talking about Harlem Eubank, who is up against Jack Catterall in a welterweight contest at Manchester's AO Arena next weekend. Spencer is with us this lunchtime, and we're back after the 12:30 bulletin. We're live in talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes. It is Thursday lunchtime. We're talking boxing. Before we go today, we'll finish up on the opening championship weekend. We now know who plays who. And on Friday, August the 8th, it's live in talkSPORT at 8 o'clock. Birmingham City, the new boys, are up against Ipswich Town, who dropped down to the championship. Ipswich Town chairman Mark Ashton will be joining Simon and myself before we go at 1 o'clock. Before that, Spencer is in studio with us. And of course, just last month, Doncaster's Dave Allen set the record straight with a conclusive 5th round stoppage win over Johnny Fisher in their heavyweight rematch. It begs the question, what is next for Big Dave Allen? Dave joins us live this lunchtime. Dave, good afternoon, mate.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, good to speak to you. Now that you've had time to let the dust settle, you look back on that win, that fifth round stoppage win against Johnny Fisher. Was that well nigh the perfect performance from you that night?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was forgot about straight after, really. Yeah, I did what I expected to do, and that's it, really. Yeah, nothing really to write home about. We just chill for a bit and back to work now. So yeah, good.
Maybe forgotten about by you, Dave, but not by the people, mate. That was yeah, it was a big win for you, and it's really opened up a lot of doors, hasn't it? I mean, where does this take you now? If you go back to when you lost to David Price, and it looked like your career was virtually over, then I think you was dipping in and out of boxing, and you get this massive win over Johnny Fisher. Now all of a sudden, there's talks of Deontay Wilder, big names like that are possibly coming to fruition. Can you give us anything on that? Where are we going next, mate?
Yeah, crazy, really. I think I look at it. You heard Deontay Wilder, Josie Parker get a bit excited, and for a few days I was excited. I was like, yes, let's go and do all of that stuff. And then you step back, and for a few days I was like, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. And I took a step back and I thought, look, why did I get into boxing? I wanted to be British champion. That was it. I wanted to be the British heavyweight champion. I want to get out of boxing with my faculties intact. So Wilder's great, Parker's great, but I think the British title is an option against TKV next. Yeah, I want to fulfil my sole ambition why I got into boxing with the British title. Worry about the Wilders, the Parkers, the big money after. Let's get that British title. Well, that's what my dad, my granddad, that's what they want. So now I've had a few days to get the excitement out of my system of being mentioned alongside the Parkers and the Wilders. Let's get that British title won, and achieving that is bigger than any amount of money and any amount of big names to be involved in. I want to win that British title.
Would you prefer that trajectory, Simon, for Dave, as Dave has just described?
It doesn't matter what I prefer, it's what he wants. If he wants the British title because it means something to him and his family and that opportunity is going to be provided, then Dave should do whatever he wants to do because it's his life. When you look at the Jamie TK fight against David Adelaide, you backed yourself against Fisher. You thought you won both fights, and I think that's probably right. And obviously the second fight was much more conclusive, evidently so. When you look at Jamie TKV, all the furore about the David Adelaide fight and the controversy, how do you look at that fight, Dave? What's your thoughts about that?
I thought TKV was winning. I think he would have gone on to win the Adelaide fight. TKV's good. He's a lot better than Johnny Fisher, just due to experience.
I'm talking about you. How do you, when you're fighting Jamie TKV, you go in there and think that's a fighter I can categorically beat?
Yeah, I can beat him. Yeah, Josie Parker, 999 times out of 1,000, I get beat. That's the truth. Deontay Wilder at this point, it's a flip of a coin. I think he's that far gone. I think I could beat him. Jamie TKV, I expect to beat. And to win the British title for me is massive. Like, I've been around forever. Anthony Joshua was the British champion when I first came on the scene. Then it was Dylan White went on to world title scene soon after. Then it was Daniel Dubois. Jamie TKV is a very good fighter, really good boxer, but he's not on the level of a Joshua or a Dubois. So if I'm going to win a British title, this might be the right time, right place for me. So all the money in the world's great, but I can spend that. I'd never not be British heavyweight champion. So that is what we are hoping to get next.
Timing is everything in boxing, Dave, and I think that the momentum is definitely with you. That's a childhood dream of yours to win that British title. You go on and win that against Jamie TKV, and I'm trying to move forward a little bit here. That puts you in a massive position again, though, doesn't it? With the bigger names out there, and British boxing, heavyweight boxing, especially at the moment, with the big names that we know that are in the twilight of the career and the younger guys that are coming through. There's a world of opportunities for you right now. It must be a really good time.
Yeah, I've had a great month, to be honest. I've had a good month. I've been in an era wherever I've gone. Been chilling, been eating. Yeah, I've been doing anything. I can do anything I want right now. Yeah, it's been good, to be honest. So I've just been enjoying myself, really. But obviously, back in the gym this Monday, I want to become the British heavyweight champion. I'm the British heavyweight champion forever then. It's massive, really. For a few days, I was like, let's box Josie Parker. Let's box Deontay Wilder. Let's do it now. And then I had a few days just to let things go over my head and went back home, chilled with the kids and that, run with dad. I want to be British heavyweight champion. That's it. And then hopefully with a Commonwealth champion, but a European champion. I don't think I'm the best heavyweight in the world. But if you give me enough money, I'll fight the best heavyweight in the world. But let's get that British heavyweight title one done. Let's go down in history.
Straight down the barrel. I was going to ask you something else off piece. We spoke to you a couple of weeks ago, Dave, didn't we, on Talk Boxing with me and Spence, and we brought up the subject of Moses Atoma and all the furore going around him and the level that he's at. He's going against Dillian Whyte. What do you think of that fight?
I think it's a good fight, but I think, again, it's the right timing for the Atoma. Dillian Whyte has had 3 fights in 4 years, I think. Didn't look great against Tete. Didn't think he was at his best against Franklin, and that was 3 years ago. He's had any activity since. I think it's the right time for Atama to box him. I think Atama will win the fight. I think he'll win in good fashion. Dillian Whyte is always going to be dangerous. He's a great puncher with his left hand, head and body. But it's about timing. Dillian Whyte is a very good fighter. He was a very, very good fighter, but you can't have 3 fights in 4 years and expect to beat someone of Atama's level. But Dillian Whyte shouldn't be underestimated, but I expect Atama to win that.
So when do we hear what's next for you, Dave? When do we know?
I don't know. I'd like to know myself, to be honest. Yeah, I'd like to know. I just, I'm back training now. And yeah, you can, I look at you straight on. Am I straight on? You can see my ears. So you can see I'm not that big. If I'm really big, you can't see my ears straight on. So, I've been back in the gym. Busy time for the gym. Jack Catterall fight Saturday. Pat Brown off the middle, I can feel it's all boxing. So busy time, and I think it's great for me being in the gym with loads of good fighters. And Jack Catterall's a great fighter, so it's great for me to be around that. I hope to hear something soon. Yeah, I ask Eddie and Daly what's happening. Ed, tell me, talk to me, tell me what's going on. I do his head in, but you have to. Yeah, I'm excited to box again. So. Hopefully it's for the British heavyweight title in September against Jamie TKV. I think it'll be a great fight, and hopefully make a bit of history in Doncaster. Yeah.
Good, Dave. Good to speak to you as always, mate. Take care. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye.
I think Dave is basically saying there, if it was his choice this lunchtime, a fight for the British heavyweight title against Jamie TKV or an opportunity for a big money fight against Joseph Parker, he'd go for Jamie TKV.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
he laid his reasons out, didn't he? It's what his father's wants. It's what his grandfather wants. It's a fight he thinks he can win. He can spend all the money in the world, but he can't not be the British heavyweight champion. And then he knows he can monetize that. So he goes in against an opponent that he knows in his mind that he can beat. Whether he can or not, we'll see. But he thinks he can beat him. He beats him, and then he opens up an even wider opportunity for himself. Then he can go for the big money because the British heavyweight title will be his.
Yeah, I think that he mentioned there. I heard there was a big show going on in September. Jamie TKV seems that obvious choice, and it'd be great to see Dave Allen get that opportunity. He's like, you saw there, he's a big character, lovely guy, and he's a realist as well. You know, that he says, look, if he achieves that British title, he would have fulfilled his career ambition.
Sure.
Let's see him get that. I'd like to see him get the opportunity anyway.
To be fair,
it's a great fight.
It's a good fight for both of them.
Yeah.
Because Jamie TKV has emerged from the, people know him, but they didn't know him as well as they do now because of the Adelaide situation. And now that Dave Allen's riding a crest of popularity, it's a good fight for Jamie TKV as well.
He's a lovely guy, TKV as well. Great guy.
You're out there wandering around the London Bridge area. We're going to release Spencer Oliver 15 minutes early amongst you this week because that is it from you. Spencer, thank you so much, mate.
Thank you.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.